If you're watching this video, you clicked on this title for a reason, and it is because you want to be a full-time reseller. Hello, my name is Erlia, otherwise known as martziechic, and in today's video, I'm going to be expanding a little bit into how I've become a full-time reseller and 5 tips that I think are super important for any beginner that is going into full-time reselling. Of course, if you guys like reselling, fashion, lifestyle videos, be sure to hit the little subscribe button down below and tap the notification bell right next to it to be updated every single time I post a new video. Also, if you haven't already, hit the little thumbs up button down below to support my channel as well and to just help me get some feedback on what videos you guys would like to see. So firstly, a little bit of a background. I have been reselling since my sophomore year of college. And at that time, it was just something to make a few bucks. It was just a hobby. And throughout college, I had continued reselling and not having any other part-time jobs because it was something that could fuel all of my expenses for school. Since then, I have recently graduated and I've started living on my own, which means my own bills, my own things. But after that, I realized that reselling is something that I am super passionate about, something that I really, really love. So I've been doing consistently for about 2.5 years now and been very good at it. And I thought in my mind, okay, well, if I spend 4 times the amount of energy that I was spending on it in college and treating it like a full-time job, how much could I really make with reselling? I decided to find out, and for the last 2 weeks, I have been a full-time reseller. So I have 5 tips for you guys if you want to get started, and I think these will be super helpful, especially if you're planning out your full-time reselling and not necessarily jumping into it like I was. The first tip I have for you guys is actually something that's super basic, and I won't go into this the entire video, and this is not what the entire video is about. And honestly, a lot of other resellers have done really great videos on this tip, so I will leave a few linked down below that I personally found helpful. But this is just to know your goals and know the math behind your goals. Not that this is foolproof by any means, but knowing your average sell-through rate, your average cost of goods, and what you ideally want to make per month is super important to understand how many items you need to sell per month, and also how many items you should be listing per day. So I just have my notebook here in front of me, and I'm going to be reading it off just so you guys can understand exactly what I'm talking about. I will put up a little visual for you on the side here. Let's say that you have an average sales price of $25 and you want to be making $4,000 a month. That means that you're going to have to sell 160 items per month to reach your goal, and that is without taxes and everything else. So ideally, if you need $4,000 a month, you should probably be making more than $4,000 a month. But we'll get into that a little bit later here. So if I needed to sell 160 items, there's also something known as a sell-through rate. Your sell-through rate is your listed items or the items that you have in your closet and how many you're actually selling per month. So let's say that you have a lower sell-through rate, I think this is the safest personally, of 20%. So I will divide 160 items by 0.2%, and I will get the number of listings that ideally I should be listing per month to be able to reach my goal. So for 160 items at a sell-through rate of 20%, I would need to list 800 items a month or 26 items a day. I'm sure you're thinking right now, holy crap, that is a lot of items to be listing per day. Again, we will get into that soon, but that is just the breakdown math of that. I have seen a lot of people in the reselling community talk about their different types of business models, but I think it's important to hone in on which one works for you. So I've seen a lot of people on YouTube especially go after the items that they can pay up for and get a higher return for, but I've also seen some people like Nicole State who flips items from the bins into thousands of dollars. So really, the only difference here is the amount of work that you're doing to try to find the item, list the item, and also the capital investment that you have paying for those items. This is something that you need to focus on when you're thinking about going full-time. A lot of people will tell you to become full-time that you'll need to invest that capital to be able to get better quality items. But especially if you're new to this or you're just doing this out of necessity, I would tell you to turn away from that. This is my own personal opinion, but I think that you should invest as little as possible into your business, especially if you're being tight with money. So my own business practices right now have been to primarily source from the bins, source here and there from buy-sell trade stores or regular Goodwills, but I'm no longer doing any retail arbitrage unless I feel really confident about that item and if it's going to sell or not. So for example, this means that my personal business model is picking up items for $2 or less and flipping them for their resale value. So I'm trying to be really selective in the items that I'm picking up to make sure that I can actually flip them for higher value than I could before. This is different than the model I had previously where I would just get anything and everything, because in some of those items I was losing money, and I might just make a whole video on that as a whole because I made a lot of mistakes reselling, but I've also found lots of successes. So that is the second tip, know your business model. The third tip I have for you if you want to become a full-time reseller is to watch your numbers. A lot of people in the reselling community are not talking about this, but whether you log your items per day or once a week, you really need to have an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Doc where you're inputting each of your numbers, and that way you can see exactly what your average sales price is, what your sell-through rate is, how much you've profited, and especially how much you should be paying in taxes. So taxes are something that's kind of taboo to talk about, but ideally you should be taking 30% of what you're earning in profits and making sure that those go to taxes. So if you're looking for a good Excel spreadsheet, I actually created one and I will link it down below for purchase, but it just explains all of these things to you in big bold letters, and it even has a dashboard where you can refer to how much you're making per month, how many items you sold per month, and what your average sales price is. I made this variable for different platforms, so I made one for Poshmark, Mercari, and eBay, and even if you wanted to, you could put in a separate one for buy-sell trade stores or any other sources of income that you're getting from your business to be able to put back in and know exactly how much you're earning per month and also how much you should pay for taxes. This is something that I personally use to make sure that I am on track with my goals. The fourth tip I have for you guys is actually about inventory, and it is where you're sourcing, how much you're sourcing, and also where you are storing your inventory. So this tip really branches out a little bit, but the first question I have for you guys is, where are you sourcing? If you are sourcing retail arbitrage, you are going to have a harder time finding inventory unless you live in a bigger city, I will say. And if you are sourcing at Goodwill bins, you might not find things some days. That happens. You might have a bad thrift day, and you need to understand where your inventory is coming from, especially since we just talked about how many items you should be listing per month. So if I'm supposed to be listing 26 items per day, then I need to make sure that I have that inventory to be able to list the next day. Now, that is a lot of work, I will say that, but also, not only is that a lot of work, but you need to have that inventory prepped beforehand. There are many options in where you're getting your inventory, whether that be having more wholesale suppliers, so having basic things in your closet, or things that are more boutique-y in your closet that you can sell through at a higher rate, or things like that you're selling to Amazon, things like that. Or if you're sourcing from the bins, sourcing more often from the bins, ordering from liquidation lots. I know there's a ton of liquidation videos on YouTube, so you can just search liquidation, resale, or reseller liquidation on the search bar, and you are sure to find some of those. But there are a variety of different ways that you're getting your inventory, but just know where your inventory is coming from. It's always better to have more available to you than less. But the last part of this tip is knowing how much space you have for your inventory. So when I was going through college, I don't think that I ever really could have made that full time because it required a lot of space. So if you guys have watched any of my older videos, you know that I spent about half of my storage space in my dorm room with my business. So whether that meant under the bed storage, in the closet storage, I just had a lot of clothes going on, and even then it was only a part-time thing. You will need designated space to become a reseller, so I personally have my basement. This is a 1,300 square foot basement where I can put anything that I want, no moisture, etc. So I've got racks down there, I have bins down there, and I also have like little shoe racks and everything to make sure that all of my inventory can be stored nicely and that there's no damage done to the items. This is super important because you are going to need some organization and an organization system specifically to understand where you're getting your items, especially if you're planning on selling so many items per day. So say I am selling 5 items per day and I've sold 11 items that day, or maybe it's over a whole weekend and I've sold about 20 items or something like that. I have to go through and pick out each of those items within my bins, my racks, etc. If I don't know how they're organized, or if I don't have an organization system, it will be really inefficient for me to find and package those items, and it actually might take me longer than it would otherwise. So I would really suggest getting on top of that when you're just getting started as well, so that way it doesn't become overwhelming. And the final and fifth tip that I have for you guys today is to streamline your business. This might be a little confusing at first, especially if you're in the part-time category, but I would encourage you to just write down some things that you don't enjoy doing about reselling, or that you have to do every day to make sure that your business is running. So for me, in the morning, I get up, I photograph, steam, list, I might package some items, I might take those to the post office as a part-time seller. You know, I might be sharing my closet, I might be cross-listing, I might be sourcing inventory that day. There's a lot of things that go into a reselling business that when you really think about it, you have to do, whether that be washing items, whatever. So write all of those things down and then realize what you can streamline, what you can put off to someone else, or what you can hire someone else to do for you so you don't have to do it yourself. Some of the things that I've been doing recently are using the USPS postage app, and you can just schedule a pickup for your items, and I've been doing this every day so it doesn't over accumulate and become really hard for my mailman to pick them up. But I will package my items the night before, make sure that the app has something scheduled, and I'll put them on my front porch for my mailman to pick up. And then they're already sent off to the post office. I don't have to be driving 10 minutes to the post office or more, and that does save me some time. The other thing I've been doing recently is using a virtual assistant. So this is someone who is sharing and sending out offers on my online Poshmark stuff. I know that there's a lot of different people talking about this, and I don't want to get into this too much, but just know the risks involved. If you are hiring a bot, know that your closet could get suspended for doing that, but if you're using a real person, they cost more. However, it really just makes sure that your closet doesn't get flagged by the Poshmark algorithm and that your closet can stay up. There's a lot of different people talking about that right now. Again, I'm sure you could probably search that within YouTube or check out our community on Instagram and see a lot of people talking about that, but that's a whole other thing in itself. The last thing that I've been doing recently is having a designated space for all of my reselling things. So this means that I can go from inventory to packaging to labels to out the door. And this makes it so easy, so I'm not walking around my house trying to find stuff, trying to make sure that this is working, trying to find this item, trying to do that. Like, it's very streamlined. I do it in pieces so that way when it all adds up, it's already done. That might be something that's new for you. That's just something that works for me personally, having it all close together, but it does impact how much time you have left in the day then. Some of my next steps, however, would be hiring someone to do the photos and the listing with me, because it's just a lot of items and it's a lot of work, and I know if another person was here with me that they would be able to do that, but those are just my next steps. So when you're writing down the things that you have to do in your reselling business that you could offload to someone else or you could do differently, just know that there are ways around that, and it will save you a lot of time, especially as a full-time seller. But those are all of the tips I have for you today if you want to be a full-time seller. Obviously, I am new to full-time reselling, so I'm sure that I will make a follow-up video about this with 5 more tips that I have to share with you guys. But if you enjoyed this video, please leave me a little thumbs up down below to help the algorithm, and be sure to subscribe. Alright guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye!